Our selection today, Step Out into the Water.
Step out into the water, wade out a little bit deeper. Step out into the water, wade out a little bit deeper. If Moshe
Came through the Red Sea,
if Noah,
came through the flood,
if Joseph,
made it through Egypt,
the Hebrew,
children through the fire,
if Lazarus,
came from the grave,
if Daniel,
from the lion's den,
if Jonah,
from the belly of the whale.
step out into the water, wade out a little bit deeper. Step out into the water, wade out a little bit deeper. The church,
Needs members to fight this war.
Israel,
Are you listening?
Israel,
Israel, are you listening?
Israel,
Israel, are you listening?
put our,
Backs up against the wall
the Bible,
is our sword,
and the Spirit,
is our shield.
servants,
Why can't we do the same?
Israel,
Israel in the field,
Israel,
Israel in the field.
step out into the water, wade out a little bit deeper. Step out into the water, wade out a little bit deeper. If Moshe,
Came through the Red Sea,
if Noah,
came through the flood,
if Joseph,
made it through Egypt,
the Hebrew,
children through the fire,
if Lazarus,
came from the grave,
if Daniel,
from the lion's den,
if Jonah,
from the belly of the whale.
step out into the water,
Oh, way
a
out.
little bit deeper.
Oh, step out.
Into the water, wade out a little bit deeper. The church,
Needs members to fight this war.
Israel,
Are you listening?
Israel,
Israel, are you listening?
Israel,
Israel, are you listening?
put our,
Backs up against the
the
wall
Bible,
is our sword,
and the Spirit,
is our shield.
servants,
Why can't we do the same?
Israel,
Israel in the field,
Israel,
Israel in the field.
step out into the water,
Oh, way
a
out.
little bit deeper.
Oh, step out.
Into the water,
Oh, way out.
a little bit deeper.
Oh, step out.
Into the water,
Oh, way out. A little bit.
deeper.
Oh, step out.
Into the water,
Oh, way out. A little bit.
deeper.
Oh, step out.
Into the water,
Oh, way out. A little bit.
deeper.
Oh, step out.
The oracles of the UCI, 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, Even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as become saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. As we all know, we have this is our last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it is absolutely a honor to be able to serve Yahweh, our Elohim, because in fact he could have left us out in gross darkness, for we were happy walking in gross darkness. And even for the children who have been raised in this word, Yahweh could have left your parents in gross darkness, which would have made you grow up in gross darkness. So we have to give the glory and the honor and respect where it is due to Yahweh and his great and holy name, because we were dealing with and began this with our Passover and the sacrifice of our God, King, High Priest. It is why I felt like we should go into a lot of the things that dealt with Yahshua and the things that Yahshua stated. Because what happens is sometimes we come away with a different view of our Mashiach. We come away with a different view of who he was and what he was about, because the infamy of him and all of the things that are said by other people, when we have his words here. And we can read his words. And when you read his words back to back, you find out that the image that has been portrayed unto us is not just false in the physical sense of what has been delivered unto us, but even the spiritual part about who he was and what he was about, that has been altered to man's liking. And you find that when we read his words back to back, we find a completely different situation is happening. His teachings are different from what people say his teachings are about. And that's why it's important for us to get in and read all of those things that are written in red in the New Testament so that we can get his words to see what he is about, instead of dealing with the word of mouth of somebody else telling you, oh, how great he is and how much he's about love, and without having an understanding of love. When it comes down to righteous judgment, that is also part of Yeshua's love. His love for his creation is he wants us to live in the way that it was intended. For that to happen, sin has to leave this earth. For that to happen, righteous judgment has to take place so that we can actually see what was given unto us. What we see now is a bunch of cities and buildings. We don't really see the beauty of what he gave us. The Garden of Eden type beauty that was given unto us. See? So it is absolutely his love that he comes here, executes righteous judgment, makes all of those that offend to leave this place so that he can then show us the original love. Not just love, but show us the original love that was intended for us in the beginning. We're talking about man sticking his hand in the ground and bringing out whatever he wanted. For him to give you that kind of love, some things going to have to be rearranged. All right? You just don't get that kind of love by walking around saying, peace, be still. No, something got to happen for him to put that back in effect. I mean, you consider it was a judgment for us to have to, now you shall till the ground in the sweat of your face. We have gotten, that's normal to us. When we go out to garden, we expect the sweat. That's not a part of your original love. That is not a part of your original love. That is a part of your judgment. Your original love, you said what you want, you reached down in the ground and you pulled it out. That's your original love. So do we judge love based on the situations that have happened in Babylon and what we got left over, or we deal with the original love that he had? He says those places are going to be like the Garden of Eden when you return. Are we ready for that? Because this is going to mess up our thought process. Because we got our own thought processes of what we think love is. Are you ready to deal with his definition of love? Childbirth wasn't supposed to hurt a woman. We've gotten so accustomed to that we think that's normal. That's not normal. No other animal on this earth goes through agony in childbirth. Not like the woman. They put out their baby, they rest for a second, and they both walk down to the water. Come on, little calf, let me show you how to drink this water. And little calf, all right. That's the original love. Are we ready for the original love? Are we basing that on what Lucifer has shown us love is? Because we're going to have to rearrange our hearts to be able to deal with the love that he originally had for us. And even Yeshua was trying to restore that. Give me back the glory, Father, which I had with you before the world was. So understand something. It is possible, when he said give me back the glory that I had with you before the world was. Have you ever considered that we have messed up Yeshua's relationship with Yahweh? Mm-hmm. Do you ever consider that when we dealing with our own thing and we dealing with what we think, feel, and believe? Do you ever sit down and think that we have come in between the relationship between Yahweh and Israel because of his creation? We're so busy dealing with what we think, what we feel, what we believe, we don't consider. You have stepped in the middle of a relationship. Why would Yeshua have to ask, give me back the glory I had before? What came in between that? You. So when Yeshua says some things that might hurt your feelings, do understand, he earned that right. He earn that right. Let's begin today's sermon in Hebrews chapter 3. It's hard to consider somebody else's relationship when all we're considering is our own. And it is the last thing that we think about. Oh, he's a God. He'll be all right.
Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 1. Wherefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, consider the apostle and high priest of our profession, Yeshua HaMashiach, who was faithful to him that appointed him, as also Moshe was faithful in all his house.
And no matter what level of faith is said about these two, pause for a second and think about all the negative things that was said about both of them. Yet Yahweh said they were faithful in everything I told them to do. The problem is, man wasn't there for all the instructions that was given unto those two. That's the problem. So man now believes that they are doing things of their own will. Moshe had to say, when all this come to pass, then shall they know that there was a prophet among them. So that they will understand that I didn't do this of my own will, but I was sent to do this. Yeshua said the same thing. Go ahead.
For this man was counted worthy of more glory than Moshe, inasmuch as he who has built the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by some man, but he that built all things is Elohim. And Moshe verily was faithful in all his house as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken after. But the Mashiach as a son over his own house, whose house are we, if we hold fast the confidence and rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end.
But the Mashiach as a son over his own house, whose house are we? So when he speaks of us, he's talking about dealing with his own house. So do your walls get offended when you wipe it? Do your floor get offended when you mop it? Thank you, brother. Go ahead.
Wherefore, as the Holy Spirit says, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation, in the day of temptation in the wilderness.
Right. It's the hardened heart that leads to all the other things. It's the hardened heart that leads to our perception of this, our perception of that. It's the hardening of the heart. And it's a process. Heart just don't get hard overnight. It's a little bit of hardening that goes, and then a little bit more. And the longer we stay in a spot where that hardening keeps happening, sooner or later it turns to stone. And a stony heart can't worship Yahweh. And you might see some of the nicest people with the stoniest heart you've ever seen in your life. Because we don't know how to actually perceive love and a heart of stone. We deal with that according to man's definition. What we have to do is learn how to look at that according to Yahweh's definition. Go ahead.
When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always error in their heart, and they have not known my ways. So I swear in my anger, they shall not enter into my rest.
Right. And the things that we don't want to deal with is that Yahweh has anger. It is important that you understand that we were made in their image, so that when you see a man get angry and you think that, oh, that is beneath Elohim, where do you think we got anger from? So you're going to be thrown off when you see the anger of your Elohim. Because somebody done told you, oh, he all about love, joy, peace, and serenity. So when you see the anger of your Elohim, you melt. Because you ain't ready for that. Because of being in the face of an angry man bothers you. What do you think being in the presence of an angry Elohim is like? Who can melt mountains? Why do you think the brothers pray, deal with me not in your sore hot displeasure? I can't handle that. That's somebody who Yahweh has allowed them to see just a smidgen of his power. And they say, don't come to me with that right there. Please don't. Go ahead.
Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living El. But exhort one another daily, while it is called today.
Right. You see somebody look like they're falling, try and give them a word of encouragement. That doesn't mean they're going to accept that word of encouragement. But at least your conscience will be clear. They might cuss you out. They just might. Because while you're trying to exhort one another daily, if an individual is not seeing where their heart is being hardened, when you come and present that, they might get angry at you. Go ahead.
Lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. For we are made partakers of the Mashiach, if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end. While it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation. For some, when they had heard, did provoke. Howbeit not all that came out of Egypt by Moshe. But with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? And to whom sware he that they should not enter into his rest, but to them that believe not? So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief.
They could not enter in because of unbelief. What was the sign of that unbelief? Constant murmuring. They murmured constantly. Everything that he led them to do, they had a complaint about. They had a complaint about this. They had a complaint about that. Every time something didn't go their way, oh, you brought us out here to die. So that we understand what unbelief looked like. See, we think unbelief means they went and worshiped another God. Understand, you may be moving in a way of unbelief and all the time saying, praise Yah. But then he watches your actions and your actions ain't praising Yah. All them people was sitting there talking about, yes, we Israel. But it was their actions that proved that they were in disbelief. Murmuring constantly. This is why it says Moshe was meek. Every time Yahweh changed his life, he moved. And these were drastic changes in this man's life. Yahweh made a change. He accepted the change. Yahweh made another change. He accepted the change. Yahweh made a change back. Wait a minute. You going to send me back to where you took me out of? Now see, that's probably the biggest change of all. Because once Yahweh makes a change, we like, all right, we good. We don't ever think we got to go back to the place that he led us out of. Ooh, no. No, that was probably the biggest change. See, when he left from Egypt to go into Midian, hey, he going to some people that don't know nothing about him. All right? This is where you get to be Mr. Begin Again. You can be anything now. How you doing? I'm finna begin again. What? Hey, don't nobody know me. You know what I'm saying? Nobody know me. I'm finna begin again. You start all over. Okay? Now, the next change, oh, go back where you came from. Oh, no, all them know me. And they know a 40-year-old different me. I was a different dude then. You sure you want me to go back there? You do know they done found that guy that I put in the sand, right? You do know they found him, right? Yeah, that's why I want you to go back to. Oh, no, that was probably the biggest one. And he was meek because he accepted every last change that Yahweh gave him. We are creatures of habit. Once we get something for 2 weeks, see, this is why men, we can't argue with our wives because we chips off the old block. We the same way. We know if you do something with a woman for 2 Tuesdays, you have vowed to do that for life. So I tell brothers, be careful about that second Tuesday. All right? If you can't keep that up, Cause Tuesday number 3, she gonna be asking you, what them flowers you done gave me for 2 Tuesdays? Oh, I didn't agree that I was gonna give them to you every Tuesday. Yes, you did. By doing it 2 Tuesdays, you agreed. Well, was it an unspoken agreement? Yes. So, we the same way. So when Yahweh get ready to change our lives, are you ready for that change? Or do you kick and scream against your Elohim? Let's go to Revelation chapter 11. Go ahead, bro.
I was going to say, we even with that change, we go through it now because as we come into this walk, and those of us that take Hebrew names and try to start telling people that it's your old people like, what? I don't know you was that.
Right.
The funniest thing is my brother came to town some years ago and my wife kept mentioning Kish. He came to me, he said, bro, I started to ask you, what does your wife have going on? Because she keep talking about this dude Kish. We need to talk about something?
Yeah. She said, he want to know, where's this other dude, And she seems to be okay talking to you about it. So this is quite confusing. Right. But see, some of us don't want to do that because see, that's going to cramp our style with dealing with these other people. Well, it's okay. They know me as this, so I'm going to leave that as this. Man, Yahweh had me go back to the job that I had when I first got in the Word. Yahweh sent me back to that job. And I'm walking back in the door, and those people said, well, we can't say Esaac sound too difficult for us. Is it okay if we call you Israel? I said, it is absolutely okay if you call me Israel. So all the people at the same job that I had 20 years ago, all now call me Israel, but they all look like, hey man, what his name something else the last time he was here? Yes. But let one of them do the Cassius on me. Well, I'm going to call you Cassius because that's what your mama called you. Go ahead and try it. Go ahead and try. Go ahead and try it. Go ahead, bro.
Revelations chapter 11 and verse 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of Elohim and the altar and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. And I'll give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before Elohim, before the Elohim of the earth. Pardon me. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth and devours their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed.
So you have to pay attention to the power that is given to them. And I keep saying, and I don't think it really kicks in to people because we kind of do some self-appointed things. Yahweh doesn't give power in self-appointed things. All right. Yahweh gives power according to covenants. All right. So they have a job. I want you to pay attention to the power that they have as long as they have the job. Go ahead.
These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will.
When they won't, as often as they will. But you done got on my nerves. Turn that water to blood. As often as they will. This is the power that's given unto them because it's connected to the job. Go ahead.
And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them.
How are they able to do that? Because their job was finished. Their job was finished. They had power over all of these things. Nothing could happen to them. See, this is something that I need people to pay attention to. The power and the protection is connected to the job. When the job is over, all of a sudden they get killed. What happened? What happened? Go ahead, brother.
It just shows you how truly Yahweh sustains you because we come here every Sabbath, praise Yah, and we haven't missed any Sabbath. going through all these sicknesses that's out there.
Yep.
Yo, we usually like if you get a cold, you catch a cold or flu between to be able to make it to the next Sabbath.
Right.
You know, it's like every Sabbath though you
Yes,
be
sir.
able to make it. So
Yes, sir.
praise y'all, man.
And praise y'all indeed. And see, but when those things happen on a regular, you know what we often do? It is of less value because it keeps happening. See, what happens is sometimes we have to see something happen to somebody else so we can see the possibility of the things that could have happened to us that he kept from happening to us. See, sometimes you have to bring something close to our life. Let me show you something. Because, you know, I've been taking care of you so long that you don't even respect that I'm taking care of you. Let me bring just a little bit close to you. So Yahweh will let something happen in your life and scare you. You know, whoa. What was that? I just won't show you on here. I wasn't trying to kill you, just want to let you know, hey, I'm still here. You know, you think that all this protection and all these things are of your own doing. I'm the one that's making sure that ain't nothing happened to you. The whole time, Lucifer always knew Job. The reason he couldn't touch Job, because Yahweh had a hedge of protection around him. And he let him know, man, he don't fear you for nothing. Look at all this stuff you done gave him, man. The dude rich. He the richest man in the East. Take away that hedge. Let me touch you. I bet he curse you. I bet he curse you. Just go and let me touch him a little bit. It's all right. You can touch him, but you can't kill him. So, whether he knew it or not, that protection of Yahweh was over him all that time. Lucifer had to ask permission to touch Job. The protection is contained in the job, and I don't think people consider what that means. When the job is over, your umbrella is gone. Well, I think I'll never stop working. Some job get finished, I'm going to find me another one. See, I need to make it very difficult for my Elohim to say, well, we don't need that dude. Said, you know what, no, man, he ain't worth a damn, but he's still working. Look at him. All right, y'all go and let the little fool live. Right? Yeah. All right, let's see if we can find something else for him to do. Hey, fine with me. I need to make it till Yahshua come back. Go ahead.
It goes right along with what I said recently about you'll find that you'll have the same people doing works. And some people are just comfortable being seat dwellers. Seat dwellers don't have any protection. Servants and workers do.
That's the difference, the word servant. And I think we loosely use that term. We think worshipers are servants. Worshipers are not servants. He got beasts that sit around the throne that say, holy, holy, holy all day. He don't need us for that. So you can sing holy. Congratulations. He got beasts that can do that. He don't need us for that. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 8, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Adonai was crucified.
So their dead bodies. Now, if you don't understand how your Elohim works, you're going to say, man, does Elohim even have any love? These are the two olive trees. These are two witnesses. They have done the job that he has asked them to do, and he left their dead bodies in the street. Even in death, there's glorification of Yahweh that's about to go down. Go ahead.
And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves.
So it is also a testimony against the people. Oh, so y'all don't care nothing about my servants, that y'all would leave their bodies sitting right here in the street, not even to offer a proper burial for my servants. So y'all rejoicing in what you think has happened unto them. This is why I tell people, be careful what you think. Just when you think somebody down, you find out that Yahweh is using that to judge the hearts of men. So 3 days and a half, dead bodies in the street. Yahweh is rendering judgment on the other individuals. Go ahead.
And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth.
They had a we done killed Yahweh servant party. They sending gifts. How you do that? Merry Death Day. Go ahead.
And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Elohim entered into them, and they stood up on their feet.
Now, this is the part where Yahweh gets some amazing glory. They done seen them 3 days and a half dead. They offering gifts. They partying over their dead bodies. And then they stand up. Oh, glory for Elohim is on swole right now. Go ahead.
And great fear fell upon them which saw them.
Right. See, now he got their attention. But see, this is how you have to understand. Yahweh will let some things go on just so he can prove what is in everybody's heart that is standing near. See, they think this was a judgment unto those two witnesses. The judgment was on the people who sat there and watched the dead body. And great fear definitely came upon them when the bodies stood up. Go ahead.
You know, coming out of this place, if that's not purged out of us, because we so used to seeing that.
Right. Right. What they do in our neighborhood is leave the body out there for an extra long time. Then all of a sudden, the place that can purchase helicopters and tanks, for some reason, can't get a big enough sheet to cover a whole body. I'm the only one that think that's peculiar. Why is it half of the dead leg is always hanging out the cover? And then they leave them there in the street so that they can mess with your mind. Hey, at any given time, this can be you if you come against us. Oh no, it's some psychological warfare going on by leaving that dead body in the street for 10, 12, 13 hours. The kid, mama coming down the street and see her baby still laying in the street. She's screaming. This whole melee is happening. Everybody start recording it. Then you see it all across the country. Right. That's mental programming. They are doing that on purpose. You can build a wall, but you can't make a sheet big enough to cover a man? Right. Go ahead.
And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. And the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the El of heaven.
Right. See, some people, Yahweh had to bring it all the way down to the wire. Then they'll glorify him. Now there's others, no matter what, because they're too stiff-necked. No matter what you do, they ain't changing their position. Unless the complete building fall down on top of them, they ain't changing. They're going to keep going. However their original intent was, you're not going to make them change. Go ahead.
The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe comes quickly. And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven, saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Adonai, and of his anointed one, and he shall reign forever and ever.
All right, well then something has happened then at the seventh trump, right? Because understand something. It says the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Adonai. What did the adversary say to our Adonai? He said, this stuff is given unto me, and I give it unto whom I will. So what's happening here? We're watching a change of power. It is transferring hands. What do y'all think we're about to witness in the earth? The Euro-Gentiles rulership time is over. The earth is almost destroyed. It is about time for rulership to change hands. Go ahead.
And the 24 elders which sat before Elohim on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped Elohim, saying, We give you thanks, O Adonai, El Shaddai, which art and was and art to come, because you have taken to you your great power and has reigned. And the nations were angry, And your wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged.
Time of the dead that they should be judged. But see, what they told us on Sunday morning is Valhalla has risen. They done told us that all the dead people done floated up to heaven. See, you got the doctrine, the infamy of what the people say, and then you got what's written in this book. And the interesting part is the people who are spreading the infamy about him got the same book we got. It's not like we're reading from a different book. Go ahead.
And that you should give reward unto your servants the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear your name, small and great, and shouldeth destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of Elohim was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament.
It was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. People will tell you, well, the ark is in Ethiopia. They have the ark. They know it's in a secret place. Yeah, it's in a secret place. Go ahead.
And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail.
All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 19. See, there's something that we have to consider, that if nothing else, watching what happens when an unarmed Hebrew who they have misnamed African American gets shot, you realize that his life then comes into understand as a character witness against his dead self. Okay? So what happens is how you walk makes you a witness, either for or against yourself. But it's bigger than that, because being servants of Yahweh our Elohim, how we deal also makes us witnesses for him. Now, if you guys have been flipping through the channels and watching, this case about, George Floyd, you'll see how there's a witness that says, I seen such and such. Then it's the other lawyer's job to discredit that witness, to make that witness seem like what they saw, what they encountered was not real. And to make that seem unreal, let's go into all the past things that you have done in your life that will cause us to question your character. So, that being said, this is the way the heathen operates. If we are Yahweh's witnesses, what kind of character witness will you be when Yahweh put you on the stand? What will Lucifer try to bring out of your life to question the quality of your testimony? Deuteronomy chapter 19, and let's read verses 15 through 21.
One witness shall not rise up against a man for any lawlessness, or for any sin, in any sin that he sins. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall the matter be established. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men, between whom the controversy is, shall stand before Yahweh, before the priests and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition.
The judges shall make diligent inquisition. See, diligent inquisition is you're going to come off your place of comfort, and you're going to ask some uncomfortable questions. And you're going to ask some uncomfortable questions to some other individuals, not just the people you cool with and the people you hang out with. You're going to make diligent inquisition. Diligent inquisition means you got to get up your John Brown hind parts and ask some questions. You got to get into some uncomfortable conversation with some other individuals. Otherwise, there's something wrong with your inquisition. You ain't done it right, which has now made judgment unrighteous. Because you ain't talking to nobody but the people you like. There's something wrong with that judgment. that judgment is going to be misguided. That judgment is not going to be correct. Go ahead.
And behold, if the witness be a false witness and has testified falsely against his brother, then shall you do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother.
And you have to sit down and wait. See? So that when righteous judgment is executed by Yahweh, do we even go back? Because it may take a year for righteous judgment. It may take longer than that. Do we sit down and think about what was said, what false testimony was offered, and then what judgment came unto the individuals that partook in it? Go ahead.
So shall you put the evil away from among you, and those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you.
So the whole process of showing this is not going to help the individuals, because when somebody has it in their heart that they're just going to be a false witness, lying doesn't mean anything to them. Anytime they feel like it may save themselves, they're going to lie. Anytime they get in a bind, they're going to lie. Anytime they get uncomfortable, they're going to lie. So none of this is for them. The judgment among them is to help the rest of the individuals who witness it. Because ain't no change in them. Because they're stiff-necked and rebellious. This is what they're going to do. So even in their stiff-necked and rebellious attitude, they are still serving Yahweh. Just not in a way that is going to be beneficial to them. Because what has happened is now his servants now have an example of what not to do. Go ahead.
And your eye shall not pity, but life shall go for life. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot.
And that's what we can't do. That's what gets us into trouble, because we don't know how to deal with the different aspects of love. We think it's love when we try to save somebody evil. No, that's justifying wickedness. That can get you killed. Let's go to Psalms chapter 27. Psalm 27, and let's start that at verse 1.
Yahweh is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahweh is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident.
And this will I be confident, because I believe that Yahweh my Elohim is going to save me. Go ahead.
One thing have I desired of Yahweh, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of Yahweh all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of Yahweh and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock.
Right. He didn't say wasn't nothing going to happen to you. He said when it does, I got you. Go ahead.
And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing. Yes, I will sing praises unto Yah.
So do you have to be in the choir to sing praises to Yahweh? It says let every voice praise Yahweh. If you can talk, you can praise him. Do words come out your mouth? Go ahead.
Hear, O Yahweh, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me, and answer me. When you saideth, seek you my face, my heart said unto you, your face, Yahweh, will I seek. Hide not your face far from me. Put not your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Leave me not, neither forsake me, O Elohim of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, Yahweh will take me up. Teach me your way, O Yahweh, and lead me in a plain path because of mine enemies. Deliver me not over unto the will of mine enemies. For false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. I had fainted, unless I had believed to see the goodness of Yahweh in the land of the living. Wait on Yahweh.
That's a very powerful part. Wait on Yahweh. Correct?
Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on Yahweh.
Wait on Yahweh. Are we able to do that? Let's go to Matthew chapter 18. Matthew chapter 18, and let's start that at verse 15.
Moreover, if your brother shall trespass against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he shall hear you, you have gained your brother.
This is an equation for how we're supposed to deal with things. Go ahead.
But if he will not hear you, then take with you one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established.
So these are opportunities that we have to rectify a situation. And this red writing here, these are Yahshua's words. So this is Yahshua magnifying the law, going over and above what Moshe offered. Go ahead.
And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto you as an heathen man and a publican.
So if he neglects to hear the church, he neglects to hear the 2 or 3, he neglects to hear you. Now it says, let him be unto you as a heathen and a publican. Where are heathens and publicans? Outside. So if you got to treat them like a heathen and a publican, it's time for them to go. If you have issue with that, please seek Yahshua's understanding. Open up the book to that part, come right in front of this altar and ask him. Go ahead.
Verily I say unto you, whatsoever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them.
And understand, these are things that are being delivered unto these disciples. So please don't think that you can get you and one of your raggedy buddies, and now Yahweh is in the midst of you and y'all raggedy get together. Go ahead.
Then came Cephas to him and said, Adonai, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Yahshua says unto him, I say not unto you until 7 times, but until 70 times 7.
Right. Now, this is not a real number. I have to keep telling people. Do not try to multiply 70 times 7 and try to figure out how many times your brother can sin against you. This is not a real number. This is to tell you how much we're supposed to seek for that. But what we do, and especially those that don't want to deal with the fullness of the word, they will jump to this part, but they will skip the part that starts at verse 15. If your brother trespass against you, go and tell him his fault. It says, if your brother sin against you, rebuke him. If he repents, forgive him. So then they jump right to this part. And if you don't have the wherewithal to go to the other parts, you have now been tricked into agreeing and bringing a person back in a scenario who only has your harm in mind, because they never repented. And they never repented because they are letting you know, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. I stabbed you, and as soon as I get another opportunity, I'm going to stab you again. You'd be a fool to turn around and let that individual not only come back in your midst, but then put them behind you and give them a knife. And they ain't repented for the first stabbing. Go ahead.
Verse 23. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought on to him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his master commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Adonai, have patience with me, and I will pay you all. Then the master of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt.
So the master was then moved with compassion because he asked for compassion, and it was given unto him. Go ahead.
But the same servant went out, and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence.
So his fellow servant owed him much less than what he owed. And he was forgiven a larger debt. Automatically, that should move your heart to have compassion. So he should have already moved with compassion when he got to the person who owed him. See, this is that thing that the law changes when it's close to us. Go ahead.
And he laid hands on him, and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that you oweth. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet, and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I'll pay you all.
Now, hold on. There was something commanded against him. He had the opportunity to ask, and then compassion was found. All right, so you see that process. Now, verse 28, the same servant went out, found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, and he immediately laid hands on him. He doesn't start asking for an opportunity until after as he's getting choked out. So there is zero compassion. It doesn't matter what you give this individual. It's never going to be enough. I need for people to see this. It doesn't matter what you give them. He should be filled with compassion. He was forgiven this enormous debt. He is given an opportunity to do some things that he never should have been able to do. Yet as soon as he got opportunity, he's choking another brother out. Not even a conversation. Just straight to choke out. Go ahead.
Have patience with me, and I'll pay you all. Verse
Now,
30.
he's saying that as he's getting choked out, though. So these words might sound funny. Go ahead.
And he would not, but went and cast him into prison.
Right.
Till he should pay the debt.
Zero compassion. So all the things that were given to him don't mean jack. Go ahead.
I mean, you think about the sentence that was passed on him was him, his wife, his children.
Yeah.
All of them was to be sold.
Yep. And so we're talking he was forgiven an enormous situation. He has zero compassion. Go ahead.
So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry.
As my elder used to say, go ahead and do what you got to do. But a little bird gonna fly and tell it. A little bird gonna make sure that information land where it's supposed to land. See, the servants of Yahweh ain't gonna slide through the grass like them snakes do and try to figure out information. They gonna sit and they gonna do their job, and information just gonna fall where they are. Servants will do it. So that you understand how servants move. Go ahead.
And came and told unto their master all that was done. Then his master, after that he had called him, said unto him, O you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt, because you desired me. Should not you also have had compassion on your fellow servant, even as I had pity on you?
Right. So he should have automatically had that, even without the person asking. So what you may look at as one sin, he had sinned 3-4 times over. He should have already had compassion, but instead of having that, he was looking for the man. So he went out and found one of his servants. Go ahead.
And his master was angry, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if you from your hearts forgive not everyone his brothers their trespasses.
So that it is important that we read some of these things that Yeshua has written, because it was his death that we were baptized in, so that we understand the character of the individual whose name we were baptized in. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 10. Hebrews chapter 10, and let's start that at verse 19.
Verse 19. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holiest by the blood of Yeshua, by a new and living way, which he has consecrated for us, through the veil, that is to say, his flesh, and having an high priest over the house of Elohim, let us draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience, and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works.
Wait a minute. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works. So if there's a situation where that work is not unto love, how do you provoke one to do a better work if you just sit there and agree with the manner of how the work is being done? How do you make them reach on a higher level? How do you provoke one unto a greater work in love? How do you do that if you just sit there and agree with whatever is done? Go ahead.
Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together.
And this is what happens when we get into a place where we're in our own world. Then we forsake the assembling of the entire body. We're just thinking about what we got to do. But see, what we have to do meshes with what somebody else has to do, meshes with somebody else has to do, and all of those things are put together and then offered unto Yeshua. See, if you're in an assembly line and you have zero concern about what happens anywhere else, but you work on the doors on the car. So you have these fine doors. And you said, look, I ain't studying what's going on nowhere else in this factory. I work on doors. So now you got the best doors. But they can't finish the rest of the car. What good are your doors? You think there's a market for somebody who just buy doors? If they're not able to complete the final product, the whole factory gets shut down. They don't keep the factory open for your doors. Go ahead.
As the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remains no more sacrifice for sin.
So we sin willfully. That means we understand that we sinning. We know that we sinning. We even disguise ourselves as we're sinning. We know what we're doing. That's willful sinning. That's not some situation that, man, I was going somewhere and some things happened and things got out of hand. No. Willful sinning is you planning, all right, at 2 o'clock. What we gonna do is, do you got your ski mask? All right. So at 2 o'clock, what about your gloves? You got your gloves? All right. Now, make sure, look, don't drive your mama's car. They know that car. Wait a minute. What the hell is happening here? Oh, that's willful sinning. Because we planning out the entire thing. That gives you an extra charge, even in man's land. It's called premeditation. They say, oh, no. You plan this. So we're gonna give you, your charge carries, 5 to 10 years. But because we can now prove that you planned it, there's an extra 7 to 10 years in prison added onto your sentence because we know you planned it. See, we saw the duct tape and all the stuff in your trunk. It testified against you that it was a plan. See, understanding so that we can put things in layman's terms here. Because a lot of times people read things and for some reason we can't put that in today's language. Let's go ahead and put it in today's language. It's premeditation. You knew better. You made a decision. Many times we might get into an argument and an argument gets out of hand. That's just something that happened. Unless they can prove that you planned the argument. Now it's premeditated. Now you went about with a plan to alter a situation and deal with it. Oh no, your judgment just got higher. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 27. But a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. He that despised Moshe's law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much sorer punishment suppose you shall be thought worthy, who has trodden underfoot the Son of Elohim, and has counted the blood of the covenant.
He counted the blood of the covenant because he got baptized in Yahshua's name. He got baptized in Yahshua's name, entered into that covenant, being baptized unto his death, and then turned around and walked on all the statutes. Go ahead.
Wherewith he was sanctified an unholy thing, and has done despite unto the Spirit of grace. For we know him that has said, vengeance belongs unto me.
And do we even know what that looks like? We'll talk about it, but do we even understand what it looked like? Go ahead.
I will recompense, says the Adonai. And again, the Adonai shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living El. But call to remembrance the former days, in which, after you were illuminated, you endured a great fight of afflictions. Partly whilst you were made a gazing stock both by reproaches and afflictions, and partly whilst you became companions of them that were so used. For you had compassion of me in my bonds, and took joyful the spoiling of your goods, knowing in yourselves that you have in heaven a better and enduring substance. Cast not away therefore your confidence, which has great recompense of reward. For you have need of patience, that after you have done the will of Elohim, you might receive the promise.
Right. We keep finding these same types of things. Wait on Yahweh. You have need of patience. Go ahead.
For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come, and will not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith. But if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. But we are not of them who draw back unto perdition, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul.
We are not of them who draw back unto spiritual ruin. See, when we're looking for something that's comfortable, or we want a Hebrew walk with a Christian dress on it. See, we want to Christianize the Hebrew walk. Then we're trying to walk back into that spiritual ruin and still call it walking in the truth. Let's go to our 1 Peter chapter 2. First Peter chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 1.
Wherefore, laying aside all malice, and all guile, and hypocrisies, and envies, and all evil speakings.
Do you know how easy it is to have an evil speaking? All they have to do is say, the resurrection is already past. Do you understand that caused a problem with somebody's salvation? See, we think all evil speaking got to be a certain word spoken a certain way. No, it's about the intention of the words that proceeded out of your mouth. All it takes for something to be evil is to say the resurrection is already past, and now some other people have lost their faith, and now they stop walking. Have you considered that now you have committed spiritual murder? Go ahead.
As newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. If so be you have tasted that the Adonai is gracious, to whom coming, as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Elohim and precious. You also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim by Yahshua HaMashiach.
Right. So then we have to look at the things that we deal with. Those are spiritual sacrifices that we offer unto our Elohim. So when we see a situation that's not right, we step away from that situation. That's a spiritual sacrifice offered up unto your Elohim. We count the wrong things. Go ahead.
Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believes on him shall not be confounded. Unto you therefore which believe he is precious, but unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. And a stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed.
So, as we read that, then we understand that there are some that are appointed to disobedience. He says, what? The maker of the house have the right to make one vessel for honor and another vessel for dishonor. So there are vessels that were created for dishonor, and then Yahweh allows those dishonorable vessels to come around the honorable vessels so he can make the honorable vessels better. Go ahead.
But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praise of him who had called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Right.
Which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of Elohim, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts, which war against the soul. Having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that, whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may, by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify Elohim in the day of visitation.
So, having your conversation is not just what you say, it's what you do. Have them honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers now, but that they will observe your doings, which they shall behold, meaning they shall see it, and glorify Elohim in the day of their visitation. So they're going to still say what they're going to say about you. But once their visitation happen, then they will admit that, all right, I need to glorify the Elohim of that dude that I used to talk about. So then that means that you are his witness. So then you have to ask yourself, what kind of witness are you? As you watch these people called unto the stand to testify of what they've seen and what they've heard and what is their connection to certain events, understand, we are the ones who study this book. We are the ones that walk in the culture of Yahweh our Elohim. When you are called to testify, what type of testimony will you offer? What kind of witness will you be? So you'll find when a witness testimony is so good, and that person can handle themselves so well, the opposing counsel say, I ain't got no questions for him. I don't want him to talk no more. Because every time he talk, he glorifies Elohim. Absolutely not. No questions, Your Honor. Make sure he don't ever come back. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 13. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Adonai's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of them that do well. For so is the will of Elohim, that with well-doing you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of Elohim.
Right, not using your liberty, which is the power that you have to do some things. So whenever you have a job or you have anything, there's power given with that, which also contains some liberties that you have the ability to do. Do you then use that liberty as a cover? That's what a cloak is. A cover for maliciousness. Go ahead.
Honor all men. Love the brotherhood. Fear Elohim. Honor the king. Servants, be subject to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the froward.
So if I have a manager that I don't like, it's okay for me not to obey them. Wait a minute. It says, have your conversation honest among the Gentiles. So are we just Hebrews when we in the sanctuary? We Sabbath day Hebrews? I mean, we used to hear that term Sunday Christian. You know, the kind that will glory, hallelujah. And then they be at all the whole houses the next day. Oh, are we Sabbath day Hebrews? We only observe the stuff that's written in this book while we sitting in the sanctuary? Maybe that's why folk be like, I don't want to sit in the sanctuary. Because I'm going to have to observe Yahweh's law if I sit in there. Maybe you don't understand what the hell going on. Go ahead, bro.
No, I say if judgment was only added up when you came here to the sanctuary, praise Yah. You know, if judgment was only added because you're out there, it's different in the sanctuary.
Man, you know what's crazy though? Here's the thing. Yahweh even puts a different thing on it. He says, you know, for the leaders of the congregation, he says, do not you judge the things that are within? See, that becomes our job. Outside that door is his job. He said, no, I got that. You take care of the stuff in my house. So all the things that we don't do here, we then face judgment for. Go ahead.
For this is thankworthy, if a man for conscience toward Elohim endure grief, suffering wrongfully.
That is another spiritual sacrifice. See, there's spiritual sacrifices riddled all in here. Go ahead.
For what glory is it, if when you be buffeted for your faults, you shall take it patiently?
You're supposed to do that. You did the wrong. But we'll do the wrong and still won't take it. We'll do the wrong and throw it at somebody else. It would them. Right. Go ahead.
But if, when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently, this is acceptable with Elohim.
This is an even greater spiritual sacrifice. Go ahead.
For even hereunto were you called, because the Mashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps.
Right. Because we're baptized unto his death, he has suffered wrongfully. He suffered for sins that he did not commit. So when we do some of that as we go about, oh my God, it is a great sacrifice. Go ahead.
Who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. Who, when he was reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judges righteously. Who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead to sins, should live on to righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. For you were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls.
All right, let's go to Psalms chapter 35.
Psalm chapter 35 and verse 1. Plead my cause, O Yahweh, with them that strive with me. Fight against them that fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler, and stand up for mine help. Draw out also the spear, and stop the way against them that persecute me. Say unto my soul, I am your salvation. Let them be confounded, and put to shame that seek after my soul. Let them be turned back and brought to confusion that devise my hurt. Let them be as chaff before the wind, and let the angel of Yahweh chase them. Let their way be dark and slippery, and let the angel of Yahweh persecute them. For without cause have they hid for me their net in a pit. which without cause they have digged for my soul. Let destruction come upon him let destruction come upon him at unawares, and let his net that he has hid catch himself. Into that very destruction let him fall.
Right. You reap what you sow. I don't know how many other people, grew up hearing that. My folks always told me, if you're going to dig a hole, dig two. Because one of them is for you. It was automatically set against. All right, don't go setting traps for people. Because you're going to find. We didn't know who Yahweh was then. My folks would say, you're going to find the scorekeeper in the sky. Going to shake things up and you're going to forget where that hole is. And you're going to fall in that very hole. And you're going to know it's yours when you see your shovel. I done fell in this hole. How my shovel get in here? Because you dug that hole for somebody else. And then you forgot where it was. See, when you taking care of your business, you ain't out digging holes for other people to fall in. Go ahead.
And my soul shall be joyful in Yahweh, it shall rejoice in his salvation. All my bones shall say, Yahweh, who is like unto you, which delivereth the poor from him that is too strong for him? Yes, the poor and the needy from him that spoils him. False witnesses did rise up. They laid to my charge things that I knew not. They rewarded me evil for good, to the spoiling of my soul. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled my soul with fasting, and my prayer returned into mine own bosom.
Right, but as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled my soul with fasting, and my prayer returned into mine own bosom. Go ahead.
I behaved myself as though he had been my friend or brother. I bowed down heavily as one that mourns for his mother. But in mine adversity they rejoiced and gathered themselves together. Yes, the abjects gathered themselves together against me, and I knew it not. They did tear me and ceased not. With hypocritical mockers and feasts, they gnashed upon me with their teeth. Adonai, how long will you look on? Rescue my soul from their destructions, my darling from the lions. I will give you thanks in the great congregation. I will praise you among much people. Let not them that are mine enemies wrongfully rejoice over me, neither let them wink with the eye that hate me without a cause. For they speak not peace, but they devise deceitful matters against them that are quiet in the land. Yes, they opened their mouth wide against me, and said, Aha, aha, our eye has seen it. This you have seen, O Yahweh, keep not silence. O Adonai, be not far from me. Stir up yourself, and awake to my judgment, even unto my cause, my Elohim and my Adonai. Judge me, O Yahweh, my Elohim, according to your righteousness, and let them not rejoice over me. Let them not say in their hearts, Ah, so would we have it. Let them not say, We have swallowed him up. Let them be ashamed and brought to confusion together that rejoice at mine hurt. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor that magnify themselves against me. Let them shout for joy and be glad that favor my righteous cause. Yes, let them say continually, Let Yahweh be magnified, which has pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. And my tongue shall speak of your righteousness and of your praise all the day long.
All the day long. Let's go to Acts chapter 24. So you have to wonder what happened to Dawid and Shlomo that would lead them to write some of these things. And the whole time they're writing things that would then speak to future things. So it was prophetic in nature, even saying things concerning what would befall the Messiah. But they're dealing with personal situations that happened to them. This is how Yahweh allows something to happen to you, but it's bigger than you. Acts chapter 24, and let's start at verse 1.
And after 5 days, Ananias the high priest descended with the elders and with a certain orator named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Saul. And when he was called forth, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying that by you we enjoy great quietness, and that very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by your providence. We accept it always and in all places, most noble Felix, with all thankfulness. Notwithstanding that I be not further tedious unto you, I pray you that you would hear us of your clemency a few words. For we have found this man a pestilent fellow, and a mover of sedition among all the Yehudis throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes.
A ringleader of the sect. All right? So basically, the followers of Yahshua are looked at as a cult. That's what they call sect. There go that cult word right there. He's a ringleader of this cult of Nazarenes. Go ahead.
Who also has gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged according to our law. But the chief captain Lysias came upon us, and with great violence took him away out of our hands.
All right, now, you need to pay attention here. Who also have gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged him according to our law. So in other words, they were about to do him in. Then the chief captain Lysias came and with great violence took him away. So they was about to execute their own judgment, and somebody else, a heathen, has to come and intervene. Go ahead.
Commanding his accusers to come unto you, by examining of whom yourself may take knowledge of all these things whereof we accuse him. And the Yehudis also assented, saying that these things were so. Then Saul, after that the governor had beckoned unto him to speak, answered, For as much as I know that you have been of many years a judge unto this nation, I do the more cheerfully answer for myself, because that you may understand that there are yet but 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem for to worship. And they neither found me in the temple disputing with any man, neither raising up the people, neither in the synagogues nor in the city.
But they said he has done, these things. Go ahead.
Neither can they prove the things whereof they now accuse me. But this I confess unto you, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the El of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets.
So believing all the things that are written in the law of the prophets will have some Hebrews telling you that you're a heretic. Go ahead.
And have hope toward Elohim, which they themselves also allow, that there shall be a resurrection of the dead, both of the just and unjust.
Resurrection of the dead, just and unjust. So imagine them people who wake up, who've been told all them lies that they were going to heaven. And then they wake up and they're going to crawl out the grave. Now they're going to realize that they didn't come from the sky. Oh, that's going to be an awful... How come out that dirt? Right. Because the first thing they're going to do is look where they thought they were coming from. Just and the unjust. Going to wake up for that judgment. Go ahead.
And herein do I exercise myself, to have always a conscience void of offense toward Elohim and toward men. Now after many years I came to bring alms to my nation and offerings, whereupon certain Yehudis from Asia found me purified in the temple, neither with multitude nor with tumult, who ought to have been here before you, and object, if they had aught against me. Or else let these same here say, if they have found any evil doing in me, while I stood before the council, except it be for this one voice that I cried standing among them, touching the resurrection of the dead, I am called in question by you this day.
In other words, when it got down to this, that he believes in the resurrection. This is a spiritual matter, and he wasn't backing down from that. Go ahead.
And when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of what way, he deferred them. In verse 22, and when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of that way, he deferred them, and said, when Lysias the chief captain shall come down, I will know the uttermost of your matter. And he commanded a centurion to keep Saul, unto let him have liberty, and that he should forbid none of his acquaintance to minister or come unto him. And after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Yehudis, he sent for Saul and heard him concerning the faith in the Mashiach. And as he reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come, Felix trembled and answered, go your way for this time. When I have convenient season, I will call for you. He hoped also that money should have been given him of Saul, that he might lose him. Wherefore he sent for him the oftener and communed with him.
Right. He was hoping the man could make bond. So hope he play some bail or something. That way I don't have to deal with this situation. Go ahead.
But after 2 years, Porcius Festus came into Felix's room, and Felix, willing to show the Yehudis a pleasure, left Saul bound.
Right. And we're talking about being bound for believing in the resurrection. I wonder, do we ever take into consideration these things? When we get to the point of what we think, feel, and believe about how we think something should go and all of these things, and somebody got locked up because they believed in the resurrection? Do we understand the price that was paid for us to be able to sit here in peace? Somebody paid a great cost for this. Freedom ain't never been free. We're talking about folks arrested doing time for saying, I believe in the resurrection. This is why we have to consider every word that proceeds out of our mouth, because somebody else paid for you to have the ability to open your mouth. You didn't pay for that. Somebody else paid for that. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 43.
Says chapter 43 and verse 1. Now thus says Yahweh that created you, O Jacob, and he that formed you, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name, you are mine.
I have called you by your name, you are mine. Go ahead.
When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burnt, neither shall the flame kindle upon you.
Right. None of that says if you walk through the water. None of that says if you go through the fire. All of it says when. Go ahead.
For I am Yahweh your El, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I gave Egypt for your ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for you. Since you was precious in my sight, you have been honorable, and I have loved you. Therefore will I give men for you, and people for your life.
Right. There were people that Yahweh used to bring you to the word that he is not going to deal with. He sacrificed those people for you. They were only used to bring you to the truth. Now he no longer need them anymore. They done done their job. When a driver drives you to a place, he don't have to stay there. You go ahead and give him his tip. Thank you for the ride. Now he can go on about his business. His job is done. Go ahead.
Fear not, for I am with you. I will bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him. Yes, I have made him. Bring forth the blind people that have eyes, and the deaf that have ears. Let all the nations be gathered together, and let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this, and show us former things? Let them bring forth their witnesses.
Let them bring forth their witnesses. Go ahead.
That they may be justified. Or let them hear and say, it is truth.
Right. Yahweh lets everybody go ahead and proclaim everything that they're going to proclaim. Then he gets ready. Let's go ahead and have some righteous judgment. Bring forth your witnesses, and I'm going to bring forth mine. Now let's see what happens. Go ahead.
You are my witnesses.
You are my witnesses. So what kind of witnesses are you going to be? When they get ready to attack your character, to make you or your testimony seem false, what are you going to reply? Go ahead.
You are my witnesses, says Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me was no El formed, neither shall there be after me. I, even I, am Yahweh, and beside me there is no Savior. I have declared and have saved, and I have showed when there was no strange God among you. Therefore you are my witnesses, says Yahweh, that I am El.
You are my witnesses that I am an Elohim. Do you understand the power of that? You are my witnesses. So Yahweh has to have you testify on his behalf to the rest of the world. So the things you get off into, or how you display yourself, affects the kind of witness you can be. Go ahead.
Yea, before the day was, I am he, and there's none that can deliver out of my hand. I will work, and who shall let it? Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. For your sake have I sent to Babylon, and have brought down all their nobles, and the Chaldeans, whose cries in the ships. I am Yahweh, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King.
I am Yahweh, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. So, as it is written, God, even your God. So you have Israel, the son of Elohim, who said, let us make man in our image. The true king is Yahweh. When they desired a king, he said, don't be mad at them. He said, it's not you that they have a problem with. It's me that they have a problem with. It's me that I shall not reign over them, for I am their king. See, I am the creator of Israel, your king. See, you got several aspects that you can look at that in. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 16, thus says Yahweh, which makes a way in the sea, and a path in the mighty waters, which brings forth the chariot and horse, the army and the power. They shall lie down together, they shall not rise, they are extinct, they are quenched as tow. Remember you not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert. The beasts of the field shall honor me, the dragons and the owls, because I give waters in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert, to give drink to my people, my chosen.
Right. Everything changes form when the children of Israel enter the equation. See, the people of America in there, they are being riled up to believe that they want you. They want you out of here. That they've done all that they need to do with you. We as a people can leave. And the only reason this place is what it is because we built it. And upon our departure, it shall be destroyed. So they're begging for their own destruction and don't even know it. See, Laban had enough sense to know, as long as I keep Yaakov here, I got blessings. and I trick and I deceive and I do whatever I got to do to keep him here because the blessing is connected to him. America has forgotten how she got blessed. Go ahead.
This people have I formed for myself, they shall show forth my praise. But you have not called upon me, O Jacob, but you have been weary of me, O Israel. You have not brought me the small cattle of your burnt offerings, neither have you honored me with your sacrifices. I have not caused you to serve me with an offering, nor wearied you with incense. You have bought me no sweet cane with money, neither have you filled me with the fat of your sacrifices. But you have made me to serve with your sins.
You have made me to serve with your sin. Here it is. You call yourself Israel. You get off into other things. Then I got to protect you. Now I'm serving you in your sin. Go ahead.
You have wearied me with your lawlessness. I, even I, am he that blots out your transgressions for mine own sake, and will not remember your sins. Put me in remembrance. Let us plead together. Declare you that you may be justified. Your first father has sinned, and your teachers have transgressed against me. Therefore have I profaned the princes of the sanctuary, and have given Jacob to the curse, and Israel to reproaches.
Right, and that's something that we don't want to deal with. Not only us, but then the people who proclaim to be us, all they want to mention is the blessings of Israel. They don't want to touch those curses because they know that they can't prove that they have gone through any of those curses. So they stay away from them. Keep going, brother. Let us hit a conclusion of this matter. Chapter 44, and start that at verse 1.
Yet now hear, O Jacob my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus says Yahweh that made you, and formed you from the womb, which will help you. Fear not, O Jacob my servant, and you, Yeshurun, whom I have chosen. For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground. I will pour my spirit upon your seed, and my blessings upon your offspring. And they shall spring up as among the grass, as willows by the watercourses. One shall say, I am Yahweh's. And another shall call himself by the name of Jacob. And another shall subscribe with his hand unto Yahweh, and surname himself by the name of Israel.
Right. So their name is going to testify and witness for Yahweh that they are his servants. Say, you are my witnesses that I am Elohim. Every person that asks me my name, they pause. Your name what? Esaac ben Israel. Oh. I witness for my Elohim every time they ask me my name. Go ahead.
You know, you and I were talking about this verse 5 of we don't see the levels of deepness as they talk about each step. Because the first step is just saying, okay, one shall say, I am Yahweh's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand unto Yahweh and surname himself by the name of Israel. When you subscribe with your hand, that means you put it in writing. So this last one is even deeper than the first two. Because now you putting it in writing that this is my name.
You got it. And that's that thing. And why, that's, when we have to get into it, why would a whole country of people who are named after Israel have to change their name to Israel? Because as we were shipped all across, we have all the names of whatever slaves masters owned us. All you got to do is watch the Olympics and you see some people look just like you. But his name is Julio Iglesias and Jasmine Des. But he looked just like you. What happened? The slave master that owned him was Spanish. So he got a Spanish name. Look at some of them ball players, them baseball players, and you look, and this dude named Pedro, and he look like Pookie. That ain't no Pedro, that's a Pookie. I know a Pookie when I see one, and that's definitely a Pookie. No, that ship dropped him off in South America. But those are our folks. So their name then says a statement about where they ended up. At the end of the day, your name and likeness is supposed to represent Yahweh, your Elohim. Now, in the daughter of Babylon? Do we have to walk in two cultures? We can read in the book of Daniel and find out that they did that. So it's not an uncommon thing for us to have a spiritual name and a legal name. Like Brother Kish said, it's just levels that go with that. See? It's a level when you get to that last one. Because of the seat that I'm sitting in, I made sure I went to that last level. But at any given time, Daniel's name was what? Belteshazzar? So when the heathen came up to him, he had to answer the one name. When his folks came up to him, they called him Daniel. The crazy thing is how we will deal with the heathen part of it. We know Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Half the people, over half of the people, if you ask them what's their real names, they can't tell you. We remember the heathen name more than we remember their real name. And their real names are spiritual names that glorify Yahweh Elohim. But we'll remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but won't remember their real names. And it's clear, it says in there, his name was Belteshazzar after the name of my God. So again, I ask, what kind of witness are you? Go ahead, bro.
Verse 6. Thus says Yahweh, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts. I am the first, I am the last, and beside me there is no El. And who, as I, shall call, and shall declare it, and set it in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people, and the things that are coming and shall come, let them show unto them. Fear you not, neither be afraid. Have not I told you from that time, and have declared it? You are even my witnesses. Is there an El beside me? Yes, there is no El, I know not any. They that make a graven image are of all them vanity, and their delectable things shall not profit, and they are their own witnesses.
They are their own witnesses. They have to testify for themselves. Go ahead.
They see not nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who has formed a god or molten a graven image that is profitable for nothing? Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen, they are of men. Let them all be gathered together. Let them stand up, yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. The smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals, and fashioneth it with hammers, and worketh it with the strength of his arms. Yes, he is hungry, and his strength fails. He drinketh no water, and is faint. The carpenter stretches out his rule. He marks it out with a line. He fits it with planes, and he marks it out with the compass, and makes it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, that it may remain in the house. He hews him down cedars, and takes the cypress and the oak, which he strengthens for himself among the trees of the forest. He plants an ash, and the rain does nourish it. Then shall it be for a man to burn, for he will take thereof, and warm himself. Yes, he kindleth it, and bakes bread. Yes, he makes a god, and worships it. He makes it a graven image, and falls down there too.
Right. So from the same tree, you done made a god and made a meal out of the same substance. So you heat up your meal with the wood, and you made a god with the part that was left over. Go ahead.
He burns part thereof in the fire, with part thereof he eats flesh. He roasteth roast, and is satisfied. Yes, he warms himself, and says, Aha, I am warm, I have seen the fire. And the residue thereof he makes a god, even his graven image. He falls down onto it, and worships it, and prays unto it, and says, Deliver me, for you are my God.
Right. He made it, but it's his God, and then he asked the God that he made to deliver him. Right. Go ahead.
They have not known nor understood, for he has shut their eyes, that they cannot see,
Uh-huh.
and their hearts that they cannot understand.
Right. See, you have to be careful because Yahweh will blind you from some things. See? Go ahead.
And none considers in his heart, neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burned part of it in the fire. Yea, also have I baked bread upon the coals thereof. I have roasted flesh, and eaten it. And shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stock of a tree? He feeds on ashes, a deceived heart has turned him aside.
A deceived heart has turned him aside. Go ahead.
That he cannot deliver his soul, nor say, is there not a lie in my right hand?
So a deceived heart will not allow him to repent. A deceived heart will not allow him to acknowledge the plainness and simplicity that is in front of him. Because the heart has been deceived. Go ahead.
Remember these, O Jacob and Israel, for you are my servant. I have formed you. You are my servant. O Israel, you shall not be forgotten of me.
Uh-huh.
I have blotted out as a thick cloud your transgressions, and as a cloud your sins. Return unto me, for I have redeemed you. Sing, O you heavens, for Yahweh has done it. Shout, you lower parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, you mountains, O forest and every tree therein. For Yahweh has redeemed Jacob and glorified himself in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, and he that formed you from the womb. I am Yahweh that makes all things, that stretcheth forth the heavens alone, that spread abroad the earth by myself, that frustrateth the tokens of the liars, and maketh diviners mad, that turneth wise men backward, and make their knowledge foolish, that confirmeth the word of his servant, and performeth the counsel of his messengers, that says to Jerusalem, you shall be inhabited, and to the cities of Yehuda, you shall be built, and I will raise up the decayed places thereof, that says to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up your rivers, that says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, you shall be built, and to the temple, your foundation shall be laid.
Right. So when Yahweh gets ready to do things, he can call him a servant from any place and out of this earth, because the earth and the fullness therein belongs to him. It is his. He uses whatever he so pleases to use to set up whatever he desires to set up for the children of Israel. That is all that we're going to do today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.